Yeah, my name is Lynn Fang. I'm soil and compost specialist with LA, and I'm going to be sharing a demonstration project called the Urban Carbon Farm. And this was kind of born out of the Healthy Soils initiative with TreePeople, but also came about at Griffith Park because LA Compost had just started their first kind of park-based compost site at Griffith Park. And we broke ground about a year and a half, 2 years ago, 2 summers ago, and started producing compost there with food scraps we collected from local farmers market drop-offs. Additionally, LA Compost was partnering with Kiss the Ground to create this Regenerate LA initiative, which I think has expanded to Regenerate America, which is really to bring about regenerative land management practices to park spaces. So kind of all of these initiatives kind of converged, and we reached out to LA Parks and Rec to see if they could give us space for a study site to do some soil carbon monitoring, and they were open to it. Also for them, they're really interested in kind of partnering with community projects right now. So there was a lot of openness and support there. And so we were able to secure a study site just below the Crystal Springs picnic area. And we're able to kind of conduct this project. This infographic also came out of our partnership with Kiss the Ground to kind of conceptualize the carbon cycling system in a regenerative park model, and how it could be shifted from the industrialized system that creates a lot of emissions to one that reduces and sequesters carbon into the soil and builds community at the same time. So first, just to kind of introduce you guys to what is happening with soil carbon. So approximately 50% of our soil organic matter consists of soil carbon. And so we wanted to try out these soil best management practices, including adding organic matter amendments such as mulch or compost, and see if they could increase soil carbon storage. That's something that we've seen in the literature. And so we wanted to be able to demonstrate that in this kind of park space lawn site. And from we understand from the literature is that soil microbial activity really contributes to organic matter formation and stabilization of organic carbon in like macro aggregates essentially, and also micro aggregates. And particularly fungally dominated systems really contribute to stabilized carbon and organic matter. And so we wanted to see if there was an association with the microbial ecology, with the fungi to bacteria ratio on soil carbon sequestration. So we set up our experiment here. It's a very flat site. We kind of carved out this study site in between the trees, and we tried to reduce the edge effect around there. So this study site was carved out to have the most kind of consistency across that site. We used compost from LA Compost as a treatment, mulch from Griffith Park as a treatment, and we also had control treatments where there were no amendments. And we only did a thin layer, half-inch layer for the application of compost or mulch. We didn't do any combination treatments. So it was just compost or mulch. And the starting kind of materials, the mulch had kind of a 1-to-1 fungi to bacteria ratio, about 28% soil organic carbon content. Our compost happened to be very high in fungi, so it was 2.6 fungi to bacteria ratio that was tested, and 46% soil organic carbon content. And we measured various soil health indicators, including biology and chemistry. And we did it in kind of a randomized triplicate design. So there's 3 kind of replicate treatments in the plot as a whole. So this is what it looked like in the beginning, and usually it would be a green grass lawn, but they had hosted the haunted hayride there for a couple months before we got started. And so it was, just kind of dirt when we got there. And then we installed our amendments in late November 2021. And then we took our post-test sampling this past August. So during that time, the grass had grown back, And you can't really see any of our amendments. You can kind of see when you walk on site some pockets like remnants of the compost or mulch treatments, but generally it's pretty much all grass. And so that's what we sampled in August. And unfortunately, we had to do it in August because they were also setting up the haunted hayride again this year at this site. So this probably isn't best kind of long-term research site, but we were able to get about 9 months time kind of period to test over there. So these are the results. So I wanted to kind of start with the microbial activity that we got from here. So the control, the baseline study, the bacterial and fungal activity was quite low when we first started, but it's higher now. And so our total kind of active fungi and active bacteria levels are quite high in the compost treatment. So this is the soil, and it's a little bit lower in the mulch, but the nematode population is much higher in the mulch, and it's also higher in the compost and the control. And so there might be some, more kind of nematode predation on the fungi and bacteria. So that might be why it's a little bit low. This site was also continuously irrigated throughout this. So actually the mulch is maybe trapping a little bit more moisture, and that might be kind of why it's kind of expressed in this way in the microbial community. So overall, our compost is quite strong in microbial activity and nematode activity as well. So from just looking at the fungi bacteria ratios, our compost is the highest in the FB ratio. Control and mulch are quite similar. And the soil organic carbon content, the percentage is higher in the compost. There's a little bit of variability in all of the treatments, but this kind of pattern is kind of consistent with what we saw in the literature, is that compost kind of has more high kind of carbon accumulation in the soil. Mulch is a little bit lower, but more so than no amendments at all. So that is pretty consistent with what we've seen. One of the kind of studies that we were looking to as a model was one from Riles and Silver, where they applied compost one time onto rangeland and tested the carbon accumulation kind of 3 years after that, and saw that it remained high. It was kind of decreasing a little bit, but it remained elevated even after 3 years of just one-time application. So this is also kind of a grass-based system, but it does receive, traffic. We asked the park not to kind of disturb our study site so much, and they may have kind of receded, but we asked them not to fertilize. But there were still events going on in that area. People walk through the park, they hang out there, there's gatherings and stuff happening there. So we're still getting kind of soil carbon accumulation despite all of these different kind of variables and disturbances. So in summary, we found that our organic matter amendments really did increase soil food web activity and soil organic carbon accumulation. And the mulch was kind of favoring a nematode kind of population shift in the microbial community structure. So that's potentially reducing kind of the total fungi and bacteria because it's favoring that population. And that may have to do with the water or structure of that amendment. And compost is shifting the soil to more fungal domination. So that indicates that the amendments, the compost amendment, will be stabilized into medium to long-term soil organic carbon pools. The broader kind of implications of this finding is that we, now know that simple organic matter amendments can produce very fast, kind of immediate and very profoundly positive results. So it doesn't have to kind of take a long time for to happen. Composting also provides dual benefits to climate mitigation, not only in methane and waste reduction and eliminating emissions from that, but also enhanced soil health and carbon sequestration. So we also took data about kind of water properties and nutrients and things like that. So we'll get to see like how it improves soil health in those ways as well. Additionally, we were able to host a couple of community events at this site to kind of teach people about soil carbon sequestration and composting. And so it's able to facilitate community engagement and climate education in a public park space. And people would come by if we were like working there and ask us kind of what we were doing, what the study was about. So it can help to facilitate that experience. We wanted to create some more permanent signage for that space, but the park didn't really allow it. But perhaps if we were able to kind of build on this work, we could kind of create more permanent installation, maybe find a site where we can do some more long-term research. So that gets into what's possible for the future. So this was a great kind of pilot study and helps us generate kind of new research questions. There's many kind of variations we can explore in this new kind of soil carbon monitoring technologies we can experiment with. There's a lot of opportunities there for more research. It would be great to be able to do more long-term studies and have access to a site for more long-term research where we can still have it be open to the public, but maybe minimize some of the more intensive events that might be happening at that site. And also would be great to continue to try to develop accessible and multilingual educational materials and programming around these concepts and these projects. We are hoping to plan a webinar, a bilingual webinar in December 5th, we're shooting for World Soil Day, about this project that can share kind of the science and research behind it with both English speaking and Spanish. So that's it for this project. I don't know if we have time for a question or two, but thank you.